Hi, Kristen.
Hi, Britt. Welcome to the Superhuman Mind blog. Today, we wanted to talk about a specific area of sleep, um, actually called long sleepers. Um, so there, people have talked extensively about short sleepers, people who sleep less than normal, and of course, people these days are talking more and more about um, what is a normal amount of sleep, and people are realizing that it's important to get sleep, and people throw around numbers around 7 to 9 hours a day, depending on
They say in the States, yeah, 7 to 9 hours a day.
um,
Uh, and yeah, and then short sleepers would be sleeping less than that,
so
presumably,
less
and
than
long sleepers
seven
would
in
be sleeping
general.
more than that.
So less than seven, right? Is that the
I'm thinking, yeah, I think that that's when you're a short sleeper, you would be sleeping less than 7 on average. Of course, you could have like one day where you're catching up and you're sleeping 10 hours or whatever, but if you average it out, it would average less than 7 hours. And then, at least in the US, a long sleeper would be someone who on average sleeps more than 9 hours. So it could be someone who's sleeping 9 hours in the on work days, but who then sleeps 14 hours on weekends.
so it makes sense that people who don't get enough sleep suffer from different physiological problems, and there's been some studies that show that they have an increased mortality rate, meaning that they don't necessarily live as long as people who get an adequate amount of sleep. But it might be surprising to some people that you can actually have too much sleep, it seems like. So there's some studies that have shown that people who are long sleepers, so on the other side of that kind of gap, also have a decreased mortality rate, or
Right, right.
increased mortality rate.
Yeah, so they count the thing as sleeping too much.
And and so the question is why that is.
Yeah. Uh, th- so there are different theories. I mean, one theory is that it's not that the sleep by itself is a killer, but rather that people in certain groups that are already risk groups would sleep longer. So that's one theory. Another theory is that there is something about sleeping too much that can affect your mortality.
Hmm.
So one theory, for example, that has not been confirmed is that, well, you really suppress certain chemicals that help you fight off stress and other things. You suppress some of those chemicals in when you sleep. So for instance, if you have too much dopamine in your system, right, then you're not going to fall asleep.
Hmm.
Um, Dopamine, of course, is not sort of more of a stressor than a de-stressor, but low dopamine can also give rise to problem areas like Parkinson's disease and other things like that. And also serotonin, I think, is can become lowered when it actually does become lowered when you sleep. So in principle, it could become lowered as because if you sleep, you have all this melatonin,
Hmm.
which suppresses serotonin, and so that could give rise to perhaps stress and anxiety that could be fatal. So that's a way that sleep actually could directly affect you. But but we had some other theories as well, right?
Well, I know one theory is has to do more with the environment, that kind of that it might be an environmental change. So if you so people who are one theory is that people who are long sleepers tend to not be exposed to as many physiological challenges that you would be if you were up and awake during that period. So either that you're not just walking around as much, which of course has been associated with a lot of host of physiological issues, but also that you're less likely to exercise, things like that. I think something that people have, it doesn't look like any studies been done on yet, is that people who are long sleepers on average may not have um, as many I guess burdens or responsibilities as people who get less sleep.
Right.
And that could be perhaps self-selected. So you could be the kind of person who avoids challenging situations or a stressful work environment or working too long in general, and that in turn could perhaps contribute to
Yeah.
mortality rate.
Yeah. So of course, we should rule out there are people with physical conditions.
Right.
So if you're a long sleeper, it's sort of assumed that you don't have a medical condition that is responsible for your extra sleep. So the long sleepers are people who are perfectly healthy, at least sort of at this point in time. And so we don't include people who have sleep disorders or sleep apnea or depression or something like that.
Right.
So the long sleepers are people who are sort of perfectly healthy, at least at this point. But yeah, but then the question is, if they're perfectly healthy at this point, why is there this correlation between the sleep, the long sleep, and the higher mortality? So why is long sleep a killer? And yeah, so once we have ruled out the people who have physical or mental illnesses, I think that it probably is either self-selected or it's something people do because they don't have challenges in their life, right? It could go either way, I think. So it could be that people don't have challenges in their lives, and so what else is there to do than sleep? Or it could be self-selected, as you suggested, where people take, they say no to certain things, or they take certain paths in their life because they are not the kinds of people who would like to have these responsibilities and challenges, and so they tend to sleep longer.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely a possibility.
So, so one thing I am wondering is if long sleep is correlated with actually being tired, right? Because if you are chronically tired, and that's why you're sleeping more, it could be that the sleep is necessary to sleep longer. I mean, that could, but um, so for example, but then, well, the one issue I could see though um, is that when you sleep more, you tend to want to sleep more, right? So I know that some studies have shown that long sleepers are that long sleeping is associated with being tired all day in general. You kind of don't ever really wake up so much. So I guess what I'm wondering is if you're a long sleeper and it's because you're tired, if you should try to break that cycle by just reducing your sleep cycle, just not, or your sleep duration, just not allowing yourself to sleep as much, even though you might feel like you need to.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's I think that's right. I think it probably can become a bad habit or almost an addiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe people can be addicted to sleep in a bad way. So there are ways to cut your sleep hours in a natural way. So one recommended way is that, well, you try always to get up at the same time in the morning. Even on weekends, you try to get up at the same time in the morning, so it will fit with your work schedule, your school schedule, and but then you slowly go to bed a little bit later
Mm-hmm.
each night, but you still wake up at the same time. So if you feel like if you have to get up at 6 o'clock and you normally feel you need to go to bed at 8 o'clock to get the sleep that you need, so that would be 10 hours of sleep.
Mm-hmm.
then you would sort of slowly make it 8:30, 9:30, 10. Then you're down to 7 hours, right? For example. So that's one way to do that, and some people actually start waking up and feeling more refreshed, because the quality of sleep also increases. As it turns out, a lot of these long sleepers have really poor quality of sleep because a lot of it is like in the dream phases. They wake up a lot, then they go back to sleep. And, it's not really good quality sleep. So if you get a small amount of 7 hours of sleep a night on average, preferably like every day 7 hours, you're gonna have a lot of quality sleep, presumably. Or if that's too much for you, then 6.5 or whatever. And so you're gonna be more refreshed during the day.
All right. Well, it was good talking with you.
Yeah, it was good to talk to you too, Christian.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah.